Hey everybody, Wandering Kid here. Welcome back to my playthrough of SpaceChem. We're on Hephaestus IV, and we're going to take on Molecular Foundry. Molecular Foundry has a challenge. That challenge is to complete Molecular Foundry in Hephaestus IV using 2 reactors. So we get iron oxide and carbon, 3 iron oxides on average for every carbon. We have a recycling plant, and we have to build a cementite, which is 3 carbons and 6 iron atoms alternating in construction. Simple enough in theory. So to get this done in first, 2 reactors. And your first hint is you've already done a 2 reactor board. I've shown you a technique for doing that already, which involves each Waldo controlling a different type of atom or molecule coming in. Your second hint is you're going to have to construct Fe2C in the first reactor. Your third hint is in your second reactor, have one Waldo control one direction of the Fe2C, the other Waldo control the other direction for it. Alright, so let's begin. The hardest part of this is actually the first reactor. So let's bring that in. We're going to use a sensor reactor. And because we're going to have to control each Waldo doing different things depending on what it's grabbed, we're going to need a dump spout. Like so. We also know we're going to need to dump off oxygen anyway. So let's start with basics. We'll have red control our iron oxide, we'll have B control our carbon. Or blue control our carbon. Now, there's only one point where we can grab, well, there's 2 points. We can grab it on the Fe, or we can grab it on the O, and here we can grab it on the C or the double C. In either case, it's kind of moot. What we will do, on red, we will bring an in, we will do a grab, and down here we'll make a decision. If it's got a carbon, it's going this way with it, it's going to drop it, and it's going to ship it. Rinse, repeat. Now remember, the trick up here is to make sure that you don't use sinks in your grab train. Because if you use sinks, you'll end up not being able to use sinks down here to control your reconstruction of the atom. So at this point, we've taken care of ditching our carbon. If we have oxygen with Fe, we'll need to figure out what to do with it. But in the meanwhile, let's get blue going. We're going to stick blue a little further back. We'll have it do an in on alpha. It do a grab. And if it has oxygen, it will drop and dump it off. Simple enough. Now at this point, we're going to have to do the rest of the construction. If we find a carbon first, I want it to sit out of the way. Oops. I laid this out wrong. Oxygen goes that way. That goes that way, so we don't have to worry about this. And we will have blue sit down here, waiting for the red one to tell it we're good to go. Or do I want to play with the Fe first? Actually, I want to take care of carbon first. Now, I might as well just build over here. The question is, how do I get this to do what I want? Because what I'm going to want to do is leave a carbon either up here on top or down here on bottom. Okay, so if we don't sink blue, if blue comes through, and I just send it this way, and I do a single unbond here, that will leave me a carbon here. It can come up this way, drop. I'm going to want to get this way, actually. Do an out on side to get the carbon out of the way. I was thinking I would have blue come back and move the Fe in for the bonding process, but that may not work as I was thinking. No, that doesn't quite work as I was thinking. But if I bring it over here and unbond, that leaves me this, and I can tell red it can start here. And now it'll wait for red to tell me it's done. At which point I can do some magickery over here. So we'll get back to that. So here's what I'm looking at when blue's got itself figured out. So we've come through, I've unbonded, I grab drop, I out it. As soon as I hit this sink, red's gonna have a heart attack, but this is where I'm starting point. So now red comes through, comes up, unbonds there, comes out of the way, and we'll loop it right back in. Now all I need to do is tell blue is that it's good to go here. So blue will now do a grab here, a drop there, bond it once, so now we will have a CCF or an FEFEC bonded, ship it, and then come back into the build while red's doing its loop. So just to make sure everything's working right, let's see how this works out. Okay, so blue comes through. This is complex, I know. Grab drops, outs it, tells red it's ready. Red comes through, drops that off, ships that stuff out. Red gets ahead of blue, does a grab. We've got good timing. Oops, that needs to be an out on Omega. Other than that, we're good. Okay. Oops. Okay, that's not working as planned. There we go. Now I just need to label this, which we're building right there. And now we're going to want a... Well, it doesn't matter really which reactor we have, but we're going to use a super bonder here for the fun of it. And just so I have a visual reference, I'm going to hook one of my pipes up down here. So the objective is to build cementite here. Now if you'll notice it's CFEFE, CFEFE, CFEFE. Don't try and build it up-down, that'll drive you nuts. Go back and forth. And really, we only need 3 of these. And the rest can get out of my way. So here's what I'm going to want to do. I'm going to want to use red. So I'm going to have red bring in FE here. We'll do an in. I'll grab it. Now I'm going to rotate it once this way. And I'm doing this over here so I don't run into the walls. Let me double check that that works. I want to make sure I don't run into the upper wall there. Okay, I don't. Now the other option would be to come down this way. Actually, that would work out too. So if I go this way instead, and I rotate it that way, I can come over here, I can drop it. Come up here, and I double sync. Move things along a little bit so it's easier to see. Now the reason I'm going to double sync is because blue's going to come through and wait for its sync. Once it's got its sync, it's going to do an in on alpha. It's going to do a grab. No, I lied. Sorry, hang on. When blue starts, it's going to do a sync, a grab, a drop, there we go. Now it's going to come over, do an in on alpha, grab it, come down this way. We're going to rotate this way. And I've got to drop on the same point. Okay. There we go. Drop again. Let's see here. Okay, so I've dropped here. Synced, I grabbed it, I've dropped it here, I've come around, I've grabbed the CFEFE, dropped it in the middle. And then tell red it's good to go again. Red will go... Okay, so now I'm stopped waiting for red. Red will come through. I will bond once. I will ship psi. And tell red to go again. Okay, so our 2-reactor solution will start here. Red's going to deal with the iron oxide atom. Blue is going to deal with the carbon atom. Red's going to wait for blue to find its carbon. And once carbon does, it's going to come through, unbond a single carbon up here, and dump the rest. Then tell red, get over here, we've got work to do. Now, I think I can actually make this a little faster by having oxygen wait here. There we go. So that's gone through. We tell red, get in here. Drop that off. Blue grabs the Fe, builds out the FeFeC atom, and the process starts over again. However, I did run into a problem here, and that is I have timing problems. The reason I'm having timing problems is red is on a different cycle pickup than it was before. So I need to find a way to stall out blue on its way back, which is actually a dirty trick, but I can do it. If I tell blue that it's going to sink here, and red doesn't let it go until there, and I start blue here. So what's happening is red runs around looking for a iron oxide atom. When it does, it'll come out and tell blue it's allowed to go. And now red will wait down here. Blue will now run around looking for its carbon atom and then go through. So I don't have to double cycle, but this is one way to avoid dealing with the timing coming out of the producer. So let me show you. So as soon as we found that, blue is let loose. Blue finds its carbon, comes through, sets it up, goes back round. Oxygen gets itself out of the way, and now blue will wait until red finds its iron oxide atom again. In the meanwhile, in our other reactor, blue is now waiting for its, I don't even know what to call this thing. It's an unknown. Fe2C, or CFE2, pick your poison. It's now waiting for the second one. The first one came through, so now we've organized that. Now blue is sitting over here waiting for red to come through again and tell it we're ready to go. Red comes through again. Now I'm going to pause this here for a second. If you'll notice, we're alternating back and forth the way this needs. Going to come through, tap the sync. Blue's going to know it can bond. It sends out, and now it waits again at the beginning for red to start the process where it'll move one over for red. And I screwed up because I forgot one minor thing. These all need to be bonded together. Whoops. Okay. So there is actually a way to deal with this. I'm going to move red here. Put the start there. Put that there. Okay, so what I've done is I've shortened this loop up. We're going to be dropping our atom here. It'll make sense in a second. I'm going to blow away a lot of blue's build here. The idea is sound. We're just going to be moving pieces around, and it's actually going to make my life easier in the long run. We're going to leave that portion there, because that's going to be that way. We're going to start blue this way, and we're going to sink it. Once it's synced, it's going to grab, it's going to drop. It's going to come around the way it did before. We're going to grab the atom in the molecule in the middle to move it, and this time we're going to drop that there. So we've done basically the same thing we were doing before. We've just alternated where we're dropping our pieces. Now at this point, I'm going to bring blue around. I'm going to bring it down this way. Makes sense in a moment. I'm going to put a bond in here so that on its third pass, when it sets in this second one, it will bond up everybody. Because what I need it to do is I need it to start with a bond so I don't have to fight with blue to get it to bond correctly. I had a plan. I'm not quite sure what it was anymore. Ah, I know what it was. So we're going to drop there. I can't put in a crossover sink. That will screw me. Actually, I can put in a crossover sink. No, I can't because I got to get out of there first. Sink here, so that I trigger on this sink for the next part. This will already be bonded up, so I'm going to grab it. Come this way with it, bond it twice more, drop it again, and now ship it out. That should work. Let's see. Get our first atom in. So that's going to drop that there. Blue comes up, drops it off, goes around, waits for its next one. That turns it, puts it into the correct position, sinks, and waits. Now red comes through, drops off its last one, gives us a single bond over here, which is exactly what we needed, because as blue drags it across this triplicate, it's going to rebond up at all the rest of them, ship it out until blue we're good to go again. And wait, there we go. Now obviously this build is not going to be the most efficient for cycles. It just can't be. So if we take a look, we've gotten our 2 reactors used, but we ended up at 8,700 cycles. Oh, that just hurts to see, hurts to see. Let's see what we can do about that. And that opens up Gasworks parts for us, which is a different challenge, but I'm not done with Molecular Foundry yet. Alright guys, I became a little obsessed with this board. I did find a very nice solution that I've managed to implement. I got inspired by a few different ideas that I saw, things of that nature. I'm not going to build it in front of you. It took me a few hours to finalize how this works out, and I'm not even going to attempt to do that on screen. But what I am going to do is slowly walk you through a very nice build. This gets done in about 2750 cycles. So our first construct is basically a splitter. We're going to split carbon down to single atoms, 3 singles, and we're going to adjust iron oxide, and these are actually slightly in the wrong place. And what we're going to do is, while it's in transit, we're going to adjust how Fe attaches. So I'm going to hide red for a second. Why can't I hide blue? Oh, there we go. So what happens is, we come in here, we notice it's a carbon, blue comes through, picks it up. Now watch this trick. We unbond the oxygen once here, and then we rebond going past it, so now our Fe's are connected. When I do that though, my oxygen gets double bonded. We'll care about that downstream. It drops it off, ships it out, and we resync again. Now if I bring in red, well, we gotta get through the first 3 iron oxides. So now red, when it comes through, it's going to notice that that's a carbon, so it's going to come over here and grab it. Oh, I did not mean to go that quickly. Okay, so we have our carbon. It grabs it, runs over here with it. Now it's going to unbond it once, go out, unbond it again, ship it, drop it, ship it, resync everybody together, and off they go. Now in theory, I don't need these second sinks in the back. And as a matter of fact, I could probably speed things along by putting them closer together. What these sinks in the back are doing is letting the ends start up a little faster. Once I know that the molecule is out of the way, when they're coming back through, the end fires a little quicker. Now this pipe has room for 2 molecules to sit in it. I've actually been thinking I may want to space that out slightly more. But this reactor never has a problem waiting on things. This is actually my bottleneck. Now this mess. Let's start off with red. What red does is it's going to bring in, it's going to wait until we get a carbon. So we'll just speed this along for a second. Okay, so now we're getting fed carbons. Our carbon comes in. We then bring in our modified iron oxide. We're going to unbond it twice to get rid of that bond on the oxygen. Then we're going to snag it. We're going to bond this back up. And then we're going to tell blue it's ready to go. Now this is going to simply deposit the oxygen off and kick it out to the recycler. That gets rid of our oxygen problem. Now, how do we build the rest of this out? If you'll notice, we're starting here with the sink. We're going to come up, we're going to grab it, we're going to rotate it, and drop it down into position. Now it's going to tell red it can go again. I suppose it would help if that was visible. There's a sink here telling it that I've gotten out of the way and we're good to go. So red's going to come through again, rebuild it. Now we're going to grab it in the middle, rotate it the other direction, and drop it off. We're going to come around, hit the sinks. Now we're going to grab it from the top, come in. These double bonds are to make sure that the Fe and C bonds here that build up while we're constructing the secondary and tertiary components, or the third component here from this bond, gets cleared out. And when blue crosses back up along this way, this bond also gets removed. So now it builds out to its 9-way grid, drops it off, and ships it. I'll let you watch this again in a little quicker speed. Now I could probably adjust where these sinks are and speed things up a little better. But really my bottleneck is here. You'll notice I've pretty much built this as tight as possible against the left edge to try and remove a couple extra cycles from this reactor. That was important. By pushing this over by 1, I used to have it 1 more out. That cost me 400 cycles. So by building over here on this bottleneck reactor, I've actually sped myself up a bit. Even though I had that really long, arduous path on blue in the other reactor to make up for it. But because I can't control these input locations, now if I come out here, you'll notice I always have pretty much an atom built up waiting to go. So that's not a problem. And really the big deal is just how fast can I kick these atoms out. And the reason I'm rotating on its way through is so that that Fe is already primed, so I don't have to manipulate the atoms. And it just makes life so much easier. So I'll show you how fast this runs. $27.97. And that is a 2-reactor solution. This has 93 symbols in it, 2797 cycles, 2 reactors. So, well, that's the best we're going to do for this one. As always, I want to thank you all for watching. Please leave a like or a comment if you enjoyed this episode. They're always appreciated. And I'll see you next time.